I don't know what time it is that you're listening to this, but basically, if it's the morning, well, good morning to you. If it's the afternoon, good afternoon. If it's the evening, good evening. My name's Ed Nichols, and I'm speaking to you again about this Here and Now virtual service that we have in Dunstan for the communities of Gateshead. And remember, here and now, here is this kind of hearing, H-E-A-R, and now means sort of, immediately. And the idea is that this is a listening service, so that if you need to talk, that we'll provide sensitive, caring listeners who will listen to you. If you think of an hour session, 55 minutes will be listening to you. The only thing that we would say in the 55 minutes is, well, tell me more about that. So anything we say will only be to get you to talk more and for us to listen more. At the end of it, there will be 5 minutes in which we will just suggest a few things to you. In this area, there are many people who need to talk themselves out, who need a good listening to. That's what we've been saying over the weeks. You hear a lot of people who get isolated with their problems, who have problems, and it leads to depression, and sometimes depression to suicidal tendencies, which is very, very tragic and sad for us as a community. So this service is just to help that process of, if you like, healing a community. Now, I've said all the way along that, basically, if you have a difficulty of any kind, that you should be in touch with your medical centre and record that with them. And what we're doing is not to substitute what they do at all. It's basically just to add something to it, to enhance it if you want. Because sometimes, if you have a need today and you kind of get an appointment for a talking therapy for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes that can seem a long time if you're very down today. So what we are looking to provide is, until those appointments come, that we are there to listen to you immediately. So that's what the service is about. And remember, I'll tell you at the end the contact details, but basically the idea is that, part of the healing of our community, of our own lives, of our home lives, of our community life, is to be able for us to speak, to be listened to when we're in low times, when we really need to talk. And I just want to say this to you tonight. If you're a man, we are not good. Women are far better than us at sharing their problems with usually other women or somebody. But then we are men. And men, I just want to say this to you, that the major cause of suicide in men from 45 is suicide. The major area of suicide is men from 45. And I think that has a lot to do with being male, that, particularly British male, because we just don't talk, we don't get off our system. I was talking to a couple today, man and wife, and I said, how are you doing? Because this guy's been through some big stuff recently, huge thing happened in his life, a really very almost tragic thing. And I said, how are you doing? He says, I'm fine. And the woman standing next to him says, he's not fine, but he won't tell you. That's a bit like all of us men, isn't it? That we say, everything's fine, and things often are not fine. And I just want to say to you guys out there, let's just recognize that it is part of our maleness, but it needs to change, because sometimes we're bottling things up for a long time, and there comes a point where, we bottle so much up that it's got to spill. And if we bottle it up, it'll spill in bad ways. Depression and other things. So I want to speak to the men tonight, obviously the women too, but men, I think particularly. And can I speak to young people tonight as well, young men and young women, because basically it seems to me that all they really hear is COVID, and COVID. I think they've hit COVID saturation point. And of course, we need to hear these things. So I'm not obviously criticising the government on that. But what I am saying is that often young people have all kinds of anxieties around these things that we, who, like myself, are getting on a bit now, have forgotten that we would have been the same at their age, but we've forgotten them. Young people are wondering about their future, their education, if they're at university, how that's going to pan out. Will they get home for Christmas. It just goes on, doesn't it? And you know, and they have special concerns. So if you're a young person, man or woman, you know, in the midst of things, again, you may need just a good listening to. If you have people within your family or friendships that are good listeners to you, then obviously go there first, not to us first, but go to them first. But if not, this is a service that we offer to you as well. Here and now. A service which allows you to talk yourself out if you're troubled about anything, just to get it out of your system and to be listened to compassionately, and then offered a few 5 minutes of possible things that you might want to do or consult. So that's all it's about. So my name is Ed Nichols, and can I say to you, you know, in speaking to you, I'm not trying to say to you, you know, I've never needed to talk myself out. There are many times in my life that I've honestly needed someone to talk to. And sometimes, you know, it might sound easy because, you know, I have a good wife and, you know, children who are kind to me. But it seems sometimes, even within our homes, happy homes, I don't know what it is, but there are things you want to talk to someone about, and it seems more appropriate to talk to somebody outside of the home. So it's a strange old process, isn't it? But we all need, every one of us needs at some point in our life to be able to talk ourselves out, to be listened to, and in the process to find the healing that that brings. Because if you think about it, if you keep poison in your system, it poisons you, poisons your life, poisons every part of you, poisons the way you see. But if you get the poison out, then you start feeling well. You see things differently and everything's different. It's as simple as that. So I've spoken to you about that a lot. And it fills me with a kind of a joy and deep satisfaction to think that we communities in Gateshead become communities that find that with many places where people will listen compassionately to us when we're not on our own. We can't say, oh, there's nobody to talk to. I've got nobody to talk to. A lot of people say these kind of things, you know. And so I hope that services like this will help us to become communities that provide opportunities for you to speak and to be listened to and to find the healing that takes place in that process. Sounds very simple, doesn't it? How do you get healed? Well, sometimes you need real specialist help, and that's true. Sometimes you need medicational help, and that's true. But you know, it's also true, and many people will attest to this, that actually all you really need is the things I've said. Someone who will listen to you with understanding and with compassion, not judge you, but just listen, let you get it all out of yourself, and then to experience the healing that can accompany that. I want to just home in on one thing. I've mentioned this term before, but you know what I feel I'm trying to learn? And you know, in my life, if I'm being honest with you, all of my life, whether as a youth and community leader in my 20s, whether in a rock band in my teens and early 20s, whether a school teacher, and whatever, all my life I've been doing a lot of talking. And a lot of my life it's been expected of me. But you know, what I'm practicing now in my life is to learn to listen. And I just want to give you a simple thing. We have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth. 2 ears, 1 mouth. So we've got 2 channels for hearing and 1 for speaking. I want to say to you that should be the ratio, I think, in which we listen and which we speak. So I should listen twice as much as I speak. I should listen twice as much to others as I speak. And as I say, for me, because I've spoken and I've had jobs that basically involved me in speaking for so long, that is a challenge to me. Just to zip and listen. And I want to encourage us all in our communities to learn the art of listening. It's quite an art. If you come across people who is a person who's a good listener, that person is a special person. And that person has probably listened to a lot of people, allowed them to speak, and allowed them to get the healing from getting the problems out of their system, and to find the relief, the release, and the healing that can follow it. So they're special people. And I just want to encourage all of us, young people, you'll be amongst your friends. You know, young people speak to young people, don't they? Particularly girls, I think, young women, not girls so much, young women. But again, there are young men like this as well. But I want to encourage you to learn the art of listening. You'll become a very special young woman, a very special young man. And for we adults, even if you're as old as me, let's start to learn the art of listening. To listen twice as much, 2 ears, as we speak through one mouth. And here's just a little saying for you. Be quick to listen. Be slower to speak. Be quick to listen. Be slower to speak. Just think of all your situations. Sometimes, you know, we have a lot of experience, so we can speak an awful lot. Sometimes we know a lot, so we've got a lot of knowledge we can share. So the more that you know, the more kind of stuff you're filled with, sometimes the more challenging it is to listen twice as much as you speak. I'm learning it. You've heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, this is one old dog who's trying to learn new tricks. And I believe, you know, I'm not ageist, and I don't believe that because you hit a certain age, you can't be taught anything. I know some people who are very young because they're teachable. You can, you know, and some people are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're still teachable. So, you know, we can all learn the art of listening. And let me encourage you in this. If you learn the art of listening, I learn the art of listening, we can be very, very important to our communities, to our families, and to people in general. You know, on a train journey it can happen. You know, if you are the kind of person who is open to others and the conversation starts, perhaps it's just strangers that need to talk to you at times. You know, I know we've got to be sensible about that. I know you don't go talking to strangers, you know, in dodgy places or anything. But you know what I'm trying to say, in the safety of a train journey or something like that. So the art of listening, the art of listening. Let's learn it as a community. Wouldn't it be lovely to think that, you know, if you just went somewhere for a cup of coffee, that so many people there have learned the art of listening, whether it's people on the receptionist, on reception at places, as I say, people in coffee bars or wherever. I know we're all socially distanced, but even when you're socially distanced, you can still talk and be heard, and you can still listen. Even if you're doing your 2-meter thing, and you've got to kind of speak through a mask, it can still happen. Perhaps the mask will help us with the listening part, eh? So let me encourage you in those things. Before I just give you the contact details, if you'd like to speak to someone, let me just repeat those things. Let's learn the art of listening. Let's learn to listen twice as much as we speak. Let's learn to be quick to listen and slower to speak. I believe these are at the heart of the art of listening. And as far as your heart's concerned, let it be filled with compassion. There's a lot of people in these COVID days, you know, who are fearful, anxious, worried, uncertain. You know, it can be on health issues, you know, as the infections rates rise again. But it could also just be on livelihoods. A lot of people have lost their jobs. So they've got rents to pay, mortgages to pay, you know, children to buy for, Christmas is coming, etc., etc. So, you know, I believe the art of listening is never more needed. Do you know, for a lot of people in our communities, young people and adults, perhaps not children, if you would ask them what a gift they would really like, they would probably like just to be listened to by a compassionate human being. So that can be a very special gift we start giving to each other on the run up to Christmas. And since Christmas itself this year is an uncertain thing, we're not sure what it's going to look like, it doesn't mean we can't have a wonderful Christmas, a more caring Christmas than we've ever had before. And where the art of listening is, that will be a good Christmas for us all. I remember just being in where was it? Poundland, you know, in the Metro Centre, and I'd been getting some stuff for a Christmas party or something, and I looked at this young woman. She'd be about 24, I think, and she was on the till, and I could see she looked dreadful. Honestly, she looked really, really dreadful. And I said to her, "Are you okay? You look upset." And she said to me, "Well, you'd be upset. I've just lost my job." And so, you know, she was doing a shift and they'd fired her before she started it. And there are people around us, you know, just in simple, and we were able to talk, and a friend of mine were able to encourage her and give her a little bit of practical help. So, you know, even you know, these people on the cashier tills, you know, if we're noticing people, if we've got a heart of compassion towards people, there are opportunities to talk and let them say something. She didn't say very much. She couldn't, because she was on on the till. But basically, she said enough for us to hear and say, "Well, we're really sorry to hear that," particularly because this was near Christmas last year. "Really sorry to hear that. Can we just say that to you? We're very sorry. But you know, I'm sure you're going to get you're going to get a job, another job quickly." And as I say, this friend of mine was able to help practically, you know, help her with some money and things. So there are opportunities everywhere. I don't know if you remember at Wickham, there was a place called Quick Save. It's not there now, it's gone. But it was Quick Save. And I remember going one Christmas Eve, I think I'd been sent by my wife to go and get some apple pies or something. Anyway, I got to the apple pie sort of section of the shop, and there was this old man there, probably, I don't know, late 80s. And he was saying, "I don't know what it is about this shop. They had these in last week and they were only £1. Now look what they're charging. It's £1.50. It's a blinking disgrace." And he was going on and on and on. And I said, when I got down to the problem, basically, it was just this 50 pence. And so I said, "Listen, let me just get them for you, a little Christmas present. Let me buy them for you." And, you know, just when I said that, you know, he changed. And what he said to me was, you know, he says, he softened then, you see. And he said, "Are you sure?" I says, Why aye, it's nothing, that man. And he said, "Well, you know what it is? This is a terrible time of year for me. I lost my wife this time last year, running up to Christmas on this, you know, on the same time." And you see, his problem wasn't really the price of apple pies. It was a lonely guy who was feeling bereaved and feeling very down, and he needed to tell somebody, he needed to talk it out and talk. Now, I suppose in some sense, you know, I'm making myself the hero of the story, but basically, you know, lots of you out there have done similar things. I'm just trying to make this point that wherever you are, if you are a compassionate hearted person with the 2 listening ears, you can do great good for people. When that man went out, he wasn't the grumpy old man that I met in there. He wasn't that man. He changed. Now, I mean, he still had, I'm trying to say that was the end of the story. He still needed to talk to somebody and get till he got all his grief out of his system. But you see, it begins with small things, doesn't it? So many things. Do you know, lots of times people are not looking for huge things. They're just looking for little acts of kindness, random acts of kindness. And a person who is able to engage with other people, let them speak and listen to them, is a very precious person. And I believe you could be that very precious person. Young people, young men, young women, do you know, I don't know how that sounds to you, but listen, you become a very special young person if you have learnt that art. I want to say to you, it is more important than A stars. And I believe in education, and may you get all the qualifications you want, incidentally. I'm not saying don't get them, but I want to tell you something. As far as being a human being, a good, kind human being is concerned, this is probably more than all your qualifications, whether it's school, in sixth form, in college, in university, wherever, to have learned the art of listening. And if you practice it, I promise you this, that along the course of your life, people are going to say very kind and good things about you. Let us learn the art of listening, shall we? If you ever see me in a situation and I'm talking too much, I don't mind you going like that, and I'll try to zip, because I've got my L plates on, but I do know that the things I'm sharing with you are so important. And I'm trying to not just to say the words, but to get my life in line with the words that I'm speaking. So, this is the here and the now service. There are opportunities for you to speak, to talk yourself out, either by email, by telephone, by face-to-face, or by a Zoom meeting, whichever you prefer. And basically, you would be able to choose whether you speak to a man or a woman. If it is to a woman, there'll have to be just someone there, to support. But basically, whatever situation that you're comfortable with, we look to get in line with. We look to listen to you immediately. If you feel I really need to talk now, I need to be heard now, this service is for you. So here, as an initial contact, let me give these to you. If you want to do email, it's ed.nichols, Nichols, @live.com. If you want to telephone, phone me on my home number, 0191 460 4567. I'm often out of the house, but if you leave me a message on my answer machine and a contact detail, I'll get back to you. If you prefer a Zoom, tell me by email and I'll set up a Zoom thing with you and get Nathan, who looks after technology for us, to kind of link you up. If you want a face-to-face, I can arrange a discreet place for you to come, have a coffee and have a chat. You're not alone. There are people who want to listen to you. And if anyone is discouraged tonight, let me just encourage you. Listen, life can be good again for you. Don't let anything persuade you differently. Life can be good again. If you are feeling not much not worth much, listen, you're worth a lot. You really are. You're part of our community. You're special. You're a human being. You're special. You're in the human being club, and you do count more than you know. So let me encourage you tonight, if this is a service that's of any use to you, then do take advantage. Well, a very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending when you're listening. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.